Because a lot of times, and it's funny, when I decided to do this, a lot of people are asking me why as a pediatrician am I doing this with fathers, which is a kind of a weird question, right?
Yeah.
So it made me want to do it even more. Okay? Because basically, unfortunately, in society and in my discipline of pediatrics, you guys are in the corner. So it's usually baby, 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 mommy, 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 but we never really focus on the dads, which is bizarre, right? Because you guys are very important. So I don't know if you know, but like 1 in 10 men actually suffer from postpartum depression. And that's what we know, right? Because imagine how many men don't seek help. It might be 5 in 10, right? And so it's kind of crazy because of the fact that we have 5 alarm bells going on for women and their postpartum depression and their journey and so forth, but we don't have it for men. Now, slowly we're starting to get more traction about men and their feelings and how they're doing and stuff, but it's still poor, right? So normally when we hear about dads in the media, you're talking about, hear about the deadbeat dad, you hear about the clueless dad, or on the other side, right, you hear about the dads like, remember Denzel and John Q, that movie where he's fighting and stuff? And that's not how Denzel fights, but you know, Denzel fights. Or that movie Taken, remember Taken with Liam Neeson?
Yeah.
Right? He was looking for his daughter and he's like on the side of the road, like on the cars and stuff.
Yeah.
You have those 2 variables. You don't have the everyday stuff that dads do, right? We don't talk about when you guys help your son shave, right? We don't talk about you helping your daughter potty feed. There you go. I remember my dad helping me, picking me up every time he taught me how to ride a bicycle, right? We don't talk about that things. I remember the time my dad when I was thinking about this, I remember this time I got stung by a bee. This is my dad, Mr. Works. Stung by a bee, and I fell apart, right? Because it hurt. Crying, snot, all that stuff. Ran to him, he took care of it, but then also, he went and killed a bee. He brought the bee to me, and he said, Kim, this is a bee. This is what their purpose is. This is the stinger, and all this other stuff. In my mind, my dad killed the bee that hurt me, right? It took me years to realize that once a bee stings you, they kind of die, right? But in my mind, that core value is already stable, that he's here for me. So we don't celebrate you guys and talk about you guys. And the fact that I got so many questions, why are you doing that for dads, made me want to do it even more, okay? Especially watching my brother-in-law on his journey with his child, right? So it warms me in my heart that you guys are here with me on my journey, okay? So this is for you. So I want to introduce my panel. The first is easy, Dr. David Gore. I've known him for 4 years because my office is in his building, right? He had opened his practice up in '92. He focused on addiction therapy, family, and marriage therapy, and then also do psychotherapy. He's a father of 4 babies, okay? We have Meyer. I met Meyer through Dr. Gore. When I decided back in, I think it was like December and January, when I decided to do this for men, I didn't know how to go about doing it, but I saw a podcast they did together and it clicked. And it clicked because it was a conversation. So I'm hoping this will be a conversation as well, okay? So Meyer has over 40,000 people on his social media here for the dad. And on that social media account, he is giving you a transparent look on fatherhood and not scared to be vulnerable, right? Which is rare. Meyer has 5 babies, okay? And this is Greg. Greg is a new addition, and I'm really happy he joined us. They both are, Navy veterans, and thank you everyone for your service. I know my dad did serve as well, and Solomon's father. He now is a co-owner of Chastity Centennial, which is a real estate developing company that helps to make communities safe for people. And he has 1 baby girl, okay? So before we start, I like to have a little fun, so I need you guys to think of 2 memories with one of your children that's funny, and I'll ask you about it and before we get there. And the reason why is because if you follow me on my personal social media, not my personal, sorry. My personal is probably talking about the administration right now. But on my business social media account, you'll notice on my stories, I always post things about children because I like to laugh. And you'll see a lot. And that's one of the reasons why I went into pediatrics, not because obviously they can't talk for themselves, you have to help them, but they're so funny. So I remember I had a kid come to my office recently. She was around 12 years old and autistic, right? So I'm talking to her parents about something, and she looked at me dead in my eye, without smiling, without breaking her chant, and she said, "You're a doctor. How is your plant dead?" Couldn't say anything. All you can do is laugh. And after I laughed, I said, even though my plant's dead, I can take care of you, right? And so that's why I love kids so much. So you guys tell me about your babies at home.
The first funny thing is I try to get my daughter to use her words instead of wine. And we don't really feed her a lot of like sweets. And so we were eating and she was complaining. And I was like, use your words. And she said ice cream. And I was like, you got me. And then the second one was probably today in church. We were giving her a snack. And she doesn't eat sandwiches, but we had the 4 Velveeta crackers, and typically she takes one out, and she just was eating it like one big sandwich. And I was like, yo, she gets after it when she's hungry. So those are the 2 quickest ones that come to mind.
Okay.
My kids are very varying in ages. I have an 18-year-old, 19-year-old, and then a 30 and a 40. So I've been wreaking havoc for a while. I don't know, I took my 40-year-old shopping when she was like 7, and like I wasn't part of her household, but I wanted to be in her life, so we're checking out of the store, and I bought her something at Toys R Us. And as we're checking out, they have all the little stuff to get the kids to turn to their parents. They could have this, so there was this little thing, and it was a Polly Pocket. I don't know. She goes, can I have a Polly Pocket? I go, no, I just bought you this thing. She goes, but I collect Polly Pockets. I'm like, all right. So I bought her, and we walk out. I said, how many Polly Pockets do you have now? And she goes, just one.
She collects them. That's a true statement. And then you're one?
I feel like my kids do something funny all the time. So my ages right now are like 7. I got a 4-year-old, set of twin boys, and then I just had my baby girl 3 months ago. So I got 4 boys, 1 girl. So I could even talk about one this morning. So about 3 a.m. Usually is when my wife gets out of the bed with our 3-month-old. She goes to the guest room because the twins will find their way into our bed and just lay with me the entire time. About 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I just hear one of the twins go tickle, 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 tickle. He's like doing like this on my face. Tickle, tickle, tickle. I'm like trying to figure out what's wrong. Finally, I grab him. I'm like, this is not tickling at all. I grab him, grab his hand, and I have a fistful of hair. So I turn the lights on, and he had been in Daddy's side of the sink cutting his hair. He got used the scissors. Somehow I didn't hear the trimmer, so this side is gone. So when I get home today, after all this, I'm gonna be cutting my twin's hair. I think another one, same twin. He's very much a character. We're at a football game, and at the end of the game, my oldest had won 16 games in a row, so everybody's together, they're giving out championship rings. I don't know how 7-year-olds have championship rings, but they're giving out the rings and everything, all the other kids around. We're passing out pizza. The twin is having a blast. He's running all over the place. He's got his pizza, and he's hanging on the trash can. So I turn, and I'm just paying attention now to the coach doing the speech. And then all of a sudden, I hear like 3 older women go, oh my God, the baby. So I'm like, oh Lord, what is going on? So I run over there, and it was like, yeah, we were just talking to him. We were trying to get him to get his pizza away from the trash can because it was all dirty and stuff. And he is literally like passed out like this. So I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, am I about to freak out? Like, what just happened to my baby? He done passed out. And as they're doing that frantic thing, I see he's got one little smirk like this, and they're holding him, and he ain't dropped his pizza yet. He fake passed out because there was too much going on, and the people were talking to him, and he ain't like that. And I've seen him do it 3 or 4 times. So whenever anything gets overwhelming, he just fake passes out.
Freezes.
So yeah, that's like the 2 funny things for me. Long stories, but that's how it goes in my house.
So before we start, I have to mention 2 things. One, we have cross media in here. So y'all met Desiree and Kid. And so today in this age, if it hasn't been recorded and posted, it didn't happen. And so I'm thinking about also doing this once a year. So Kid is recording us. As far as the audience is concerned, he might record your body, but nothing that you say, because I wanted to make this a safe space. Now, if there's something that you want us to put out there, please let us know and we'll do that. But I want to make sure this is a safe space for you guys to talk. Lastly, this is meant to be fun, right? And so the reason why I liked their podcast, because it was so laid back and it was so easy. And if you notice, when I introduced them, these guys have titles behind their names. I didn't go through all the education stuff because this is not a lecture, right? I wanted you to bring these guys in here because they are on different stages of their fatherhood, right? And they have different perspectives as well. So that's what this is here for. I'll be asking them questions, right? But this is for you. So please interject. If you have something to add, add. If you disagree respectfully. If you have a question, just ask a question. And it's not like you don't have to raise your hand, just talk. It's like, kind of like we were out there having, or you guys, I was eating out there having wings. I just want to have a conversation for you guys, because I don't feel like we do that enough. We don't check on you guys enough. So that's why I'm having this. Okay? So the first question for the panelists or anybody, right? What kind of dad did you have growing up, and how did he shape you?
Ooh.
Well, I mean,
Anyway.
I can start. I'm the son of a pastor, and so I was actually born at Memorial Hospital in Savannah, and then I grew up like right by the church. So our house was an extension to the sanctuary, so I could walk 10 feet and be in a pulpit. And so I was able to see my dad lead. That had a big impression, but I also had an older sister that had sickle cell. She passed in 2016. Mine was in the room when I got called. It was crazy. And so that experience taught me, like I got to see my dad deal with, pastoring, leading people. And church folk aren't the easiest folks to, they don't look at you like, oh, thank you for pastoring. It's a grind. But he also had to come home and assist with my sister, spend the night in the hospital. And sickle cell comes through like crises and different points. And so you never know what's gonna happen. But to see the, his ability to keep fighting, and it's a losing battle. There wasn't a cure back then. There's a cure now, but it costs $2 million, so is it really a cure? But to see him fight a losing battle and to come every day and upbeat, great personality, that kind of built a different type of resiliency in me. And nowadays I feel like, seeing him deal with that, that has given me a ton of resiliency to where much of the things I deal with in life or work, it just doesn't faze me, because I had that role model to see how he was basically fighting a losing battle. Him and of course my mom. Sure. Every day. So that's kind of the framework of my dad, and so that's why I really appreciated him for doing that. So. Yeah, so I've taken care of quite a few sickle cell children, and then watching the pain that they're going through, their parents are also going through it too, even though it's not physical. Yeah. And so I do give praise for your father to be able to handle that, because it's really hard to see. These are not my children, but to see children in general in pain is very hard to see. So I can understand that.
That's you.
Do I need this? Do I need this?
No.
Okay. So I've done panels on dads before, and part of my belief is when you grow up with a dad like I had, it's not very different than people who grew up without a dad, because my dad didn't talk. And like a lot of men, he just kept stuff in. He was a wounded man. He came from France. He lived through World War II as a red-headed French Jew, hiding out from the Nazis, which is not a good look in his world. And he hid out from the Nazis with his sister, survived. His mom and dad survived, came to America. It's the greatest country in the whole world. This is it. And I grew up believing that. He was the son of an immigrant. The older I get, the more important it is. But so he didn't talk. He didn't know how to throw a baseball. Like the one time we played catch, he got mad at me because I couldn't hit him in the glove. So we had to do this. He couldn't catch, so it was my fault. So I think we played catch once. That's the bad news. The good news is he said I love you. He hugged me. He was warm. They kiss in France. And at one point when I was 12, I said, let's shake hands. I don't want to kiss him. No. We're gonna keep on kissing. So I got plenty from him. But he's been dead since '88, and I wish I knew more of his story. But man, you couldn't get stuff out of him with a crowbar. I would ask him stories, and he just.
So I grew up in a West African household. My dad is West African Liberian. My mom really from South Carolina. But if he's leading the house, that's what's going to happen. And for anybody who kind of knows West African fathers, even really parents, but fathers, they're very hard. Everything is about just the hard work. That is the only thing they're really supposed to be there for. And what that did for me is it represented what I was supposed to do. Like, he was always there, but he wasn't always emotionally present, but he led by example by going to work. So I made all my value essentially off what my work is supposed to look like. If I'm going somewhere, I'm supposed to be getting some work done, I'm supposed to be coming back. And just like your father, as you mentioned, like, he just really didn't know how to talk about stuff. And I think part of that was either he was never really taught, or there was a lot of traumas that he went through. Liberia went through about almost a 20-year civil war. So we lost pretty much all of his side of the family, from from his mother to his father, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters. And I would be able to tell times where my dad would be frustrated, or he would feel a thing where he would go even more silent than normal. But it was never really ever any tears, or never really much to talk about. Everything I learned about my dad was normally through somebody else. No matter if it was really, really good, like, hey, your dad was awesome in soccer, but he was too humble to ever say that. Or like, did you know that your grandfather died like this? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So even to this day, it's still very hard for me to create a higher level of relational equity with him, but I just hold the value very high for what he was able to do based on his sacrifices. My relationship is okay, but I mean, I think we all sometimes want a little bit more from people that we love. So,
so do y'all feel like the fact that y'all father wasn't there emotionally, in a sense, did it affect the way that y'all grew up in the negative?
For some reason, I became a therapist who talks to people about their inner lives all day, every day. I don't think I think it's just a coincidence.
and me, it's the very same way. Like, I'm a fatherhood advocate who doesn't have a strong relationship with his dad. And then, in middle school, high school, because my mom wasn't always very lovey-dovey either. So when it came to emotions or even like physical intimacy, I was making up my own definitions of that. And I was looking for it all through those years. So as you hit puberty, you're not talking about the birds and the bees, and you're not really getting the hugs and the love at home. Although I don't want to blame all of that on them, I was extremely promiscuous and doing all these things throughout the day that maybe I could have found a little balance with what I possibly could have gotten at home. I'm still processing that though.
And that's good though. So not that it's good that you're processing and realize it, because I've noticed like a lot of coworkers or other parents that I have, I think there's a generation of men that didn't really talk about their feelings and stuff. And so now you have fathers who are trying to figure it out, right? Because they wanted that but didn't have it. And so for you, right, you have a platform of over 40,000 people to explain what it looks like. And so I think a lot of people are searching to find that connection they didn't get from their parents. And why we didn't get their parents, it depends on where you're from, right? African Americans, we know that you had to be tough and you can't show any pain and so forth, right? And you had to just deal with it, right? And so therefore you weren't able to give that vulnerability to your child because that could have cost their life, right? So I think we have a generation of men now who are trying to figure it out because they don't want to do the same thing. Not saying they don't love their fathers, right? But they want to do something different. And so I appreciate that you were transparent with that. Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything?
I know my dad, he's like a military dad, so I grew up in a military family. My dad was like very, very loving, right? So like, through the football, after a football practice, all the stuff, right? Like, by all metrics, standards and metrics, a good dad. But I think one of the things that's so interesting is he never really ever, he doesn't really talk in depth much about things. If I had like issues at school, if I'm shy around girls, like I'm way more likely to go to if I had issues at school, shy around girls, stuff like that, he never really was the person to talk to about that kind of stuff. And so it's interesting today because say if I have issues, like say if I'm tripping in my marriage and I need somebody to talk to, or if I'm tripping, or say say something my wife does and it's like, ugh, or if my son does something, I'm way more likely to talk to my mom about those kind of things, despite my dad being, by all metrics, a good dad. But it's because he never was the type to be super vulnerable And so like my conversations with my dad ended up being like, yo, how are the Falcons doing? Or man, like the NBA Finals is crazy, you know, or something like that. But it's never. And so I look. What I want to do is be better for my son. I want my son to be like I want to be the person that my son talks to about like girls, vegans, or like internal emotional conflicts. If he's like got depression, I want him to talk to me about that. You know, something like that. You know?
That's good.
That's fair.
Can I ask a question too, leading into that? And this is for pretty much anybody, because as I think about fatherhood, I always say like you can't really divorce fatherhood. Like that dad that you have will forever be your father.
Yeah.
And they're going into different levels of being the granddad and the great granddad, and some of us have the relationship, but we want more. Is it possible to still be able to break that mold of not being able to talk to him and to now get there with him? What do you think?
I think it's mentally difficult at this point, right? So I talked to my dad, because at the end of the day, like again, we talk about like a lot. We talk about the news. We talk about politics. We talk about sports. We talk about everything. But it's very rare that we talk about Keith, and so or something like that. And so I don't know. I think it's a little bit more difficult, because I think the precedent has already been set, and I tried it, and I want to do my best to. Like I said, my dad's great, awesome dad, 10 out of 10. I just want to set some sort of precedent a little bit different, so that if my son gets rejected by a girl at school, I could be the person he goes to, and I'll be like, yo, if that happens, they be rejected.
It ain't nothing
And
new.
it's gonna make you stronger when they do, right?
Let me tell you about Daddy at 85. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So as you're navigating that, did I interrupt somebody? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
That's my brother right there. So, so he might have a different perspective on the whole dad situation, but like, your dad was there, your dad was there, your dad was there, your dad there. Well, our dad wasn't there. I mean, so he wasn't there. He didn't live with us. He lived in a whole nother city. Wasn't really that. He didn't just pop up for Christmas or nothing. Like he might get something once every 5-10 years, or I mean, so we felt that he loved us. Well, I did. I felt that he loved us, but he didn't know how to show it like that. So it was just one time that he didn't have that much money, but I wanted something, so he gave me the money. But when I'm trying to go show him what I'm going to buy with the money, I kind of see him stealing something for himself. So I knew like from that he trying to put us first, even though he's not there all the time. And so I be kind of want to put my kids to let them know like I am there, but I don't necessarily know I'm really just out here winging it for the most part.
Yeah.
And from some their mother told me, because apparently they go to their mother for stuff that they don't want to talk to about me, but they felt like that I do more talking at them instead of talking to them.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily know how to talk to them, because I'm only talking to them. I would want somebody to talk to me, but that don't seem to be the method in which they receiving it as. So I don't know.
How old are your children? Oh, sorry.
I'll just jump in and say you don't have to discover this on your own. There's literally a bunch of videos here and a bunch of videos there and books here. So there's definitely guides how to talk to your 2-year-old, how to talk to your 8-year-old. But I think you say the word vulnerable, and Brene Brown, who's a famous researcher, she says, in a relationship, the first thing I want to see in you is vulnerability. When you act vulnerable, that's attractive to me. But the last thing I want to show you is my vulnerability. So I think you could stop talking at him and let him know your own insecurities, and boom, I bet you things would open up. So, kids will tell you if they're interested in in what's coming out of your mouth. You look at it.
Yeah.
If they're interested, they look interested. If they look like they'd rather be anywhere else, but listening to you talk, you got to take that in. Unless, of course, they're in trouble and you got to hand down punishment. But other than that, if you're talking to them and they're not with you, take note of that and slap the hell out of them.
Hey.
Told you what to do, son.
But I think like what he said, because I love Ray Brown actually, just tell them that you're trying, right? You tell people that and that can open up like, oh, he's being vulnerable to me. They probably don't know the words for that, right? But they're born for me and they can see you as a person and they might be more receptive to you. How old are your babies?
Well, these boys 20 and 21.
Okay, they're still your babies.
Yeah, they is. They just, I don't know, man. I'm trying to just get them prepared to be out there on their own and how they gonna handle themselves and deal with adversity as far as like, you know, just
life.
Things like life, like yeah. So. But I don't know.
I think at that age, if you just tell them what you told us, it might open up a door.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy that we come from the exact same cloth, but we parent so different.
Man.
Like, I can't say he's way more willing to try than I am. I kind of, here's your homework, you fail. And one of the reasons for that is because due to our situation, we lost our parents at a young age too. So I was forced to kind of get it out the mud per se on my own. And I feel like from where I am now compared to a lot of my peers, it's a good place in life to be like a citizen or whatever. So I feel that you got to get out and try and fail in order to succeed. Because if you got somebody giving you the blueprint and the step by step and being emotional for you and carrying you on and on and on, then that's kind of like a crutch hindering you. Because when that person's gone, what do you have?
And I see, like you said, we lost our parents when we were young, so he was 16, I was 18, and it really just been us leaning on each other since then. And you know, we be trying to tell our kids like we ain't had nobody to tell us this, and this. But y'all looking at it like, man, why y'all trying to tell us this, and this?
Yeah.
So,
cause they hear y'all say, we ain't had nobody to do this.
Yeah.
But they looking at y'all like, but we do. Like y'all here for us, so why y'all making us do
It
this?
should be one of my values.
It's hard.
When I tell them what I told them, like, look, I didn't have nobody to give me a car or show me how to drive or whatever. I'm here for you. Let me show you, let me do this. And you like, okay, I got it. You look at a YouTube video or something on social media, I'm gonna do this. Now you done wreck the car. So now we don't have that.
Yeah, special.
I was, I'm not going to you guys.
I was just thinking, I kind of see how men get to a point where they're gotta be emotionally disconnected to a certain sense, you know what I mean? Because me and my brother kind of like Tone there. Our dad wasn't there for the most part, but he was, you know, he'd pop in every now and then, but my mom never made us feel like he was a bad dude, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like some moms would be like, hey, your dad didn't do this, your dad didn't do that. She never was like that, so when we was together, it was like, man, I love this dude, you know what I mean? Just, I don't know, because he wasn't there like that, but we had some kind of connection, you know what I'm saying? So by the time I got grown, he, I think I was like 18 or whatever, he had passed, but it was like I kind of felt like he knew something was going on, because it was like he was going around meeting all the people that he loved to make amends some kind of way, you know what I'm saying? And he died, you know what I mean, like that day that he was trying to make amends or whatever.
Wow.
So from that point, you know what I mean, life goes on, make a bunch of mistakes. So at this point, it's like, okay, I'm a dad, whatever, but I'm making mistakes, and I'm like, I really like, damn, man, I ain't never just know how to tie my tie, shit, the power of cologne, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? Just little stuff like they're able to teach you, like, hey, man, cologne, hey, now, you know?
Yeah. That axe, you be on that axe.
They will ask themselves to death.
Just grooming, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Hard grooming. So it's like, man, you know, growing up, we looking at each other. You know, we all growing up to be men at this point, so we learning from each other, like blind leading the blind. But like I was saying, there's hella videos out there just to watch and just educate yourself or whatever. And, shit, I forgot what I was doing.
That's fine.
That was good.
You're just talking.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, you good, bro.
So I think that a lot of times we sort of cavalierly use the word vulnerable. Be vulnerable in front of this person, but in reality, that's not really how it works. If you haven't been able to be vulnerable towards yourself, if you're not able to be vulnerable towards yourself, it's impossible to be vulnerable towards somebody else. It really is. So a big part of it is, for me, a big part of the process is like, at what point do I get in my life where I'm truly, truly okay with whatever my truth may be? And then as we move forward as adults and as men, it's like, bro, go back and console your 6-year-old self.
Yeah, for sure.
Think about your 6-year-old dad. You feel me? So when you're talking to your son, bro, all your insecurities don't come from you being however old you are in compass. All your insecurities and fears come from that 6 or 7-year-old kid. So when you talk to your son, find a way for your 6-year-old self to talk to your 6-year-old son. It's healing the inner child, bro. And for a lot of us, it's like, yeah, we don't have fathers. Like, I mentor a lot of kids, and what I tell people all the time is like, listen, man, allow people to love you who want to love you. But it's hard to accept that the person that you think should love you the most is the one that, quote unquote, has loved you the least. Or haven't shown you love in the way that you think love should be shown to you. Sometimes you just gotta be cool with, bro, this is how they show me love, and it's the best that they were able to do. And once you get to a certain point, man, really and truly, bro, all your insecurities and all my triumphs come from when I was a 7-year-old kid. If I need to convince myself I could do something, I think about that 7-year-old kid who was learning how to ride a bike. If I'm feeling down and I'm beating myself up, I'm not beating myself up now as an accomplished adult. I'm beating myself up from when I was a 6-year-old kid and I felt insecure because I studied. And because my dad was there, but a lot of times they can only show up in the way that they were showing up for, and you just give them pass. This whole thing is about forgiveness, man. It's about a journey of forgiveness. If you're here, someone's loved you along the way to get you here. And I talk to my mom, I have young people talk to their moms. It's like, hey, don't beat your dad up. Don't beat your mom up. Because your mom saw something in your dad. And hopefully when they created y'all when they was in love. Or they had special feelings for one another. So it's just like that, man. For me, that's my biggest take. It's always as mentoring young men, and as a father, as a grandfather now, we all make tons of mistakes. But it's just part of the process. And your kids will forgive you. You could be a crackhead sleeping underneath the bridge. And your daughter's gonna love you as if you are the most amazing person walking on the face of the earth. And that's just who we are, too many people. So don't beat yourself up, man. Just give yourself a pat on the back. And I promise you, your kids will give you that same pat on the back. And they're gonna let you make mistakes. What's the mistake? They don't let you do that, man. So that's what's up, bro.
I want to piggyback on what he said. My father, he was born in 1936 in North Carolina. And he went into the army, and then he went into ministry with Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali and all that stuff. So, you know, when you see the movie and they were like, you know, take that camera out of the devil's hands or whatever. like on the movie, you see somebody's hand, that was live footage, and the hand that went over the camera, that's my dad's hand. And so, you know, he had bought my grandmother a church or whatnot, and he had a 5th grade education. I mean, 5th grade from back in the 40s is like kindergarten now. And he built a company, and when I was growing up, we lived in the suburbs out in Fayetteville or whatnot. And one thing that happened is the other children, their fathers were like, you know, like CFOs, CEOs, like working at Chick-fil-A, Delta, Coca-Cola, and stuff like that. And we had like, you know, a Father's Day or whatever thing. And when we went, my dad came wearing like this big Western belt buckle and a plaid shirt. And he pulled up in this red, I don't know, whatever that red sports car is that you put a Corvette engine in or something or whatnot. And the other fathers, you know, they had on suits and everything. And I said, well, you know, why don't you dress like them? And he was like, well, how much money do you think they made? And I was like, I don't know, maybe 100,000. He's like, that's pretty good. And he said, I make $500,000 a year, and I wear what the hell I want to wear. That's what he told me, and that just sparked something in me. He said, you know, don't go work for anybody else. You work for yourself. And, you know, my siblings, they're a lot bigger. They're 6'4", 6'5", muscular. And I'm just like the little runt and stuff. So he was like a lot rougher on me. So it's like, you know, I couldn't get the chainsaw to start. He's yelling and screaming, pick the damn wood up. And he would have me pick up rocks and carry them all the way over there and drop them. I'm like, for what? He's like, are you finished? I'm like, yeah. He's like, now carry them back over here. You know, or, you know, I'd be like, well, I can't lift weights because of my shoulder. He's like, you better pick that shit up when I'm a jar them. So he was like that, you know, he's like, yeah, go and fire this gun. I'm like, what that? It was this big Magnum PI long 45, 4-pound thing, and he's like, yeah, shoot it. And I'm like 6, like, and I'm crying, and like, shoot the damn gun, you know. So he was a lot tougher on me, you know. And so he wasn't big on education, he was just big on hard work. And he would not let me fail. He's like, no. Like, you know, I wanted to go to the MBA program at Emory University. I didn't score high enough on the GMAT. He's like, well, then take your ass to Mercer. You going, you know. And, you know, so, you know, I went, I did a, you know, bachelor's in accounting, a master's in financial reporting, did an MBA in strategic governance, and he just like, keep going. And at the time I had a child, and her mom was just, you know, just keep shit or whatever. And I had the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. to do an internship at the White House. And he was like, go. And he was like, you know, Obama's a devil. I don't know how to explain this to you, but you're going to find out and you'll see. And he's like, you know, the prophecies are coming true, and it's time. It's time. And he's like, you know, there's going to be new leaders that are coming up. You're a leader. He's like, you know, don't get in there and don't follow. Don't listen to what them people say. You be you know, or whatnot. And, you know, during the interview process, you know, I ran into a guy named Ernest Dilworth, and they wanted me to be part of something called the Select Executive Service, like SES. And when I got into the office, you know, Mr. Dilworth, he looks at me and he goes, man, no offense, but let me tell you something about these crackers, man. He said, look outside that window. I'm like, okay. And he's like, who do you think owns all these buildings? He's like, I don't know. He goes, who do you think owns this office you're standing in? And I'm like, I don't know. And he goes, yeah, it's good that you don't know. He said, keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, do what I tell you to do, follow me, and I'll make sure you get through. I'm like, okay. So I ran into a lot of mentors and a lot of people that just out of the blue, just weird people. I just meet them and they're just like, hey. And they just talk to me and just open up to me or whatnot. And I'm just like, it's almost like my dad talking, you know, through them. And so now, you know, I have a little son, his name is Onyx. This boy is, I don't know where he came from.
Brilliant.
On a spaceship somewhere.
He's so smart.
Yeah,
Smart.
Man. And, you know, he likes golf and, you know, things like that. So I make sure to be home to take him to the country club so we can play golf. And I make sure that he has this little mat there. We listen to classical music, and we have our pretentious cup of coffee and all of that stuff, because that's not what I had when I was growing up. When I was growing up, it's like, cut the lawn. I'm like, oh, I'm finished. Cut the other side. And like, it's not needed to be cut, I'll cut it again. So I grew up with that, with somebody just hounding me, physical, physical, physical. And for my son, it's like, well, you know, there could be a hybrid, there could be a mix between the two. I don't have to be as rough on him as my father was on me, because that's all he knew from the 30s and the 40s and stuff like that and whatnot. And, you know, it's more of a spiritual thing. So I want him to have, you know, the economic portion of it, the spiritual portion of it, and then, of course, you know, the physical portion of it or whatnot. So, you know, I have conversations with him. Yesterday we went to Barnes & Noble, and, you know, there was a girl. He said, "Hi, my name is Onyx." And the girl goes, "Man." And he goes, "Well, Dad, I did try to talk to her." And I was like, "Dude, you're going to have to get used to this." like what he said. Like, hello, bro. You got a lot to learn. They are not going to like you. You know, they don't. If you're smart, they're not going to like you. If you're intelligent, they're not going to like you. If you're fun and you're an F-board and you're out there riding on a motorcycle, because I did that. If you're out there riding on a motorcycle just banging half of Atlanta, yeah, they're going to like you. Because, you know, their job is to find the weak men and to bring you down, sleeping around and stuff, and you think like, oh yeah, that's going to be great. So you get all these beautiful women, and those beautiful women don't have a good intent for you. They have an intent that is like, yeah, well, you don't have to be productive. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to be anything. As a matter of fact, all you have to do is please me. But then when those bills come due, all of a sudden, now you're trash, now you're this, now you're that. So don't focus on that. Focus on being productive. Focus on finding a skill. Focus on finding something you like. Drill down, details, do the boring work. And at the end of the day, you have what everybody else wants you to have, but you decide who comes into your world. You build your own frame, and then you let who you want come in, and don't let anybody break your frame. That's it. So it's just, you know, stuff like that. You know, my dad didn't teach me that, but I learned it along the way, and that's just some of the stuff I want to teach my son.
Yeah.
I have a question for you real quick.
Yes.
Simple yes or no.
Yes.
Would you be who you are without your father?
No.
Yeah. I mean, he said that though.
Yeah, it's like everything is so different. And like how we parent and how we show up is so different in our faces. But like, that's a beautiful story because your dad did his job.
Yeah, he did his thing.
Ain't it crazy we only on question number 1, guys?
Yeah, I was like, oh, I keep looking at the time.
I don't know if y'all know, but we on question number 1. But that just
like,
shows
oh,
that
God.
men do want to talk. And people think that we don't want to talk. We got stuff to say, we just don't talk enough. We're not,
I was thinking like, oh
so
my
yeah,
goodness.
continue. That we on question number 1.
Yeah, we were question number 1. So I'm going to skip some because I want to make sure we talk about all the different topics. And so I'm going to talk about, because you kind of talked about relationships and dating and so forth. And so how do you create a space for your child to talk to you? So for instance, and so I'll talk throughout and talk about different experiences I've had as a pediatrician, okay? So a couple years ago, I had a child come in, never seen this child before in life, or the mother. First time I saw them for something, 5-year-old child. Comes in, and the mother is on, the mother is, I can feel her energy. It's negative, right? But you gotta keep going. Doctor Works, what's going on, blah, blah. The child was not for this, in the visit for this, but during the visit, I found out that someone was touching her, okay? And it hurts my heart because she couldn't tell her mother. And I asked her why, because she just met me, right? She just met me. She said, because I'm scared how my mother's gonna react. So we did all the questions, and then I excused her, right? Because my nurse is there. My nurse was like, let's go color. And then I had to pull the mother off the ground because she's distraught. Because we have to talk about creating a safe space for your child to talk to them. And that's very important, especially, well, all the time, right? So how do you guys create a space for your children to come talk to you, even the bad stuff?
I'll start. I think I can make it short because it's pretty much my answer. I figured it out for myself, at least how I wanted to do it. It's pretty much 2 ways. I knew at a very young father age that I needed to focus on how I responded to my kids. I used to be so quick to be like, because I played football forever, so you got the coach's spirit, and I respond kind of how my dad is. Even though we say, hey, we don't want to be like our parents, that's the only way we know, so I would respond like that first, and then be like, ooh, I'm doing it. So I would be so quick to respond like this, and it would be like kind of with frustration or with anger, or I would expect him to already know better. So I had to check myself at the door, and I started figuring out how to do that better. Slower, with curiosity before confrontation, I started leading there. And then I started using my vulnerability a little bit more. I recognized that my vulnerability was a superpower, because almost like a gift too. If I give it to you, you'll feel more comfortable to give it back. But then what does it look like? I had to start with saying things like, when I yelled at you because you got close to the street, Daddy was scared. Why was Daddy scared? Because when I was 12 years old, I had a friend who wasn't paying attention. He rode his bike into the middle of the street, didn't look both ways, he got hit. Thought I was gonna lose him. That was the first time I remember crying. So then when he hears that, it's not just like Daddy's trying to scare me into something. It's like, wait, Daddy cried before? Daddy was scared? So the more I started doing that, I started recognizing when he would wake up in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock because he had a bad dream, he would lay in the bed next to me and actually talk about his feelings. But before, he was going to Mom because he didn't never hear Daddy talk about things like that before. So the two things was I started being more curious rather than leading with confrontation, and the other one was I started using my vulnerability as a gift or a superpower. And hopefully he'll start reaching back out to me because we've had those conversations before.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, I would say, of course, I have a 23-month-old, but she's 2 years old. He's been on my behind. But at least what I got from my dad, since pastors are typically long-suffering. I mean, you can preach 52 sermons a year and people still will do the same thing. So you believe in the best. And you keep coming back no matter what the outcome is. So when I was young, I could always kind of like talk to my dad about stuff because, I mean, he's a pastor. I've gone to tons of visits with him and he just listens and he would never like tell me what to do, but then maybe a few days later, like if it was about money, he would mention, hey, well, you know, I could drive this kind of car, but don't. You and your sister like going to Disney World. So it's a trade-off. So like, it would never be like in the moment trying to direct me, but he would listen, and then maybe a couple of days later, I would get almost like a parable, and it would just keep the lines of communication open, but it kind of diffused a defensiveness I might have had in a moment if he goes and tries to correct whatever I'm coming to him to talk about.
So, in general, there's two forces. There's, I'm dad, the hard ass, rules, structure, do this. Don't talk back. If I ask you to take the trash out, do it, or better yet, train him to take the trash out without you having to tell him to take the trash out. That's easy. That's easy. All you got to do is from the get-go, they know. Dishwasher's full, they know. They debate who gets top drawer, bottom drawer, but my kids do it. It's really easy to do the hard stuff. And there's the soft stuff. You love the hell out of it. All right? And you can't just do one or the other. And my son is 323 months old. And he's 19, and his girlfriend's parents just announced they're getting divorced. And he spent the day with her, and he said to me, "What should I do?" And I said, "You show up. You show up." And I'm on social media, and I expect to get 15 new followers. And my post this past week was, the whole key to life is, I don't want to pick on you, maybe I'll pick on you, is if I need to be with him, relate to him, I need to turn my shoulders this way, that's it. I have to face, you know, and then close your mouth and listen. And it's as simple as just showing up and being present and not talking, not preaching, not lecturing. Just be quiet, ask questions, and then instead of saying, "Are you blah blah blah," just say, "Tell me more," or "How about?" You know, some people don't like questions. Just they'll talk. The point of my story is my young son, who's, you know, whatever months old he is, he's 6'5", good-looking guy. And he texts me, it was at 11:30, and I was ready to call at night. He goes, "I need to talk about life. Are you still up?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." And he wanted to talk about, you know, the girl. and how hard it is for her. And it's just like, that's my job, you know, to create that space where he knew. Now, back to your little 5-year-old, there's an Instagram thing that I love, and it said, one of the hallmarks of being a good parent is if your kid's in trouble, do they run away from you or towards you? And I love that. And I want to be the kind of dad where they run towards me. So even though I'm hard-ass dad, they know they can come to me if they're in trouble. Five's a different story. I think that's energy.
It was energy.
Yeah, and you talk about the mom's energy. I mean, guys, that's
all of it.
Everywhere we go, we're bringing in energy. And it's like, when a kid looks at us and they think, all right, they're looking up. Does this feel good? Does this feel safe? Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Then we could have fun, then we could do chores, then we could do, whatever we need to do. Do they feel safe and connected?
So let's talk about dating and sex. So
Nope.
So that's the question, right? So I had so we'll talk about sex first. So I had a kid, she was 12, 13, menstruating, right? Had her period. I'm in the room with mom and dad talking, and mom and the child. And, hey, you talked to her about sex and all that? Nope. And so I looked at her in her eyes and said, oh, you want to be a grandmother, huh? And she looked at me. I said, yeah, so sex feels good to you, it'll feel good to her, and she has a period. You want to be a grandmother. So that shocked her, and then we had a conversation. Because I've noticed that a lot of parents are scared to have the conversation. I have had the sex conversation numerous times in my room. I remember there was a boy, 14 or something, we're in the room. I said, Daddy, talking about sex? No, you tell him. And I can see he was scared in his eyes. You tell him. And that was the first time I ever gave the sex talk. It was probably stumbling. We went through and we talked about it. But you'll be amazed that these kids know a lot more than you think they know. And so you have to catch them early before society tells them what's going on. So when it's about sex, how are you guys? I know you have some time. But
Thank God.
how do you approach the topic of sex and dating to your children? As a father, you can type it to somebody else. How do you think you're going to prudence do it?
And I mean, I know, and I keep going back. So part of my experience with my mom was just like, keep your Peter in your pants, and stuff like that was like
Your Peter?
Peter.
Peter Potter, Peter Taco, Pickle Pepper.
that was her example. My dad from the pulpit. I mean, there were a lot of members that had children in high school, so he was preaching like, I know y'all parents want to tell them wait until they get married, but they having sex, so you need to also teach protection. So that was something that I heard growing up. I just want to be open to my daughter because I know I have a super protective side, like, and it just was in me, even from my mom to my sister to my wife. I mean, I was somewhere yesterday and the dude I thought he was talking to me and then he was chatting it up with my wife and I was ready to rip his neck off. But so I want to be long-suffering and patient, and my daughter, she'll be able to talk to me about anything. I'm pretty good at regulating my emotions, and so I just want her to be able to talk to me about it, and then I want her to be able to feel comfortable like bringing a guy around me so that the lines of communication are open. I don't want her to feel like she's out there alone when she's dealing with it. But I should probably get some advice from
Everybody.
because I know.
So I think the trap is to have a dual standard, like tell the boys, go out and go get your son, and the girls,
Lock it up. Clink, clink, yeah.
I get that. I mean, I've lived that. But the truth is, I want to go back to that energy thing. What do you communicate to your kids? Sex is nasty or sex is beautiful? What do you communicate to your kids? I trust you, I don't trust you. I read this whole thing, a whole long article about the cliche when the boy pulls up to take your daughter out and you're sitting on the porch cleaning your shotgun.
Yeah.
You guys have heard that?
Yeah.
And what does that say? And what it says is, I don't trust you, my daughter. I don't trust you, this boy that I never met. And my job is to take care of my helpless girl. No, that's a lousy metaphor. I'd rather arm my daughter with tools to know if something feels good, if something doesn't feel good. And then she's got the power. And that's super duper uncomfortable. All right? But no one's in a better position to teach your daughters about agency of their own selves, their own body than their dad. So I'll leave it at that. I could talk about that for a while because I got 3 girls.
Yeah, 3 girls.
I love that, and I guess I could say 2 things. I remember, like, my parents never really talked about the birds and the bees or anything like that, but the first time there was ever any mention or like a run-in where there was something sexual in my parents was when I got caught with like my Yahoo Instant Messenger. I don't know if y'all got that. I was talking to this girl I had been dating, and this is like middle school or something. And I'm thinking, I'm talking nasty, right? I ain't no telling what. I probably was talking about like fingering, or like maybe I'll get them baby fat jeans. I had never had sex. I didn't even know I don't know how many holes. I never seen it before, none of that stuff. But I'm going in, like we talking back and forth, and my mom had printed out all of the pages. So I come home from football, and she's got these papers in her hand, and I already knew something was bad. But I didn't really know how it would like come out because we never talked about none of that stuff before. I know I couldn't watch BET. I was watching BET Cut anyway.
No, Cut.
I knew I couldn't watch this and that. I was doing it anyway. My neighbor had already told me about like sex and stuff, so I knew these things, but I never talked to my parents about it. So I didn't know how it was gonna happen. Walk upstairs, she's got the papers. My mom starts crying, like bawling. Still didn't say a word. She got the belt and she whooped me. Still never said a word. That was the end of it. So here I am, this confused little boy who think I know all this stuff about sex that I really don't know. And still I have someone who now knows that I kind of know some stuff but never had a conversation with me. I'm sure she told my dad because I got another whipping. But nobody still said anything. So my only thoughts now is like, if I want to do this stuff, as long as my parents don't find out. And I spent the rest of my few years before I got out like that. And I'm thinking to myself now, like, oh man, I gotta talk to my kids about sex, I gotta do all these things. When you become a parent, sometimes there's this guilt and this pressure that you gotta like have the answers, or you gotta like do everything different than your parents. There was something I kind of coined for myself, and I recognize that anytime I wanna do something like to make a change in fatherhood, you have to have these 3 C's, right? It's the 3 C's of fatherhood, which I call it. You gotta have conversations, you gotta have a community, and you gotta have coaching. But all 3 of those things could look different, right? The conversations could be exactly what we're doing right now. He has already taught me so much just from that podcast we have. The reason why I have the Fatherhood podcast is so I can get the answers, so I can hear other people's experiences. When he talked to me about chores, and he would say things like, it's not hard, just train them. And I'm like, what do you mean? Of course it's hard. My 7-year-old doesn't even ask when the trash can is full anymore. But it's because I was starting to have hard conversations with other men. Community. You can't have no conversations if you're not in community. Like, I am so happy to see the guys that I'm sitting in front of right now. And I implore all of you to not make this the last time. Find the church group, find the Facebook group that's having these conversations. Go look for Eventbrite and find other conversations on men and mental health, because obviously we all want to talk and we have things to talk about. So find that. And then coaching, it's a little bit about what he was talking about. There are a few guidelines and blueprints and therapists, psychologists who have done research and have created tools and literally sentence lines of how you can talk to your kids about this stuff. So when I'm thinking about now, I have kids who are growing of the age where they're starting to see kissing and stuff on the movies, and they're gonna have those conversations. Well, I thought my 7-year-old was gonna do this because mom would freak out, but mom left and I saw him replay it back. So I'm like, oh, it's getting close. It's getting close, it's almost my time. So what's my job? I need to go find a community of guys and maybe start having a conversation about what that is, and then maybe go on my Facebook or my Instagram and see if other people have already figured out how to do that. So those are my 3 C's of fatherhood that I hope can help you out.
I have a question. You talked about community, right? Like, how important do you think it is for fathers to know other fathers?
My gosh. We talked a little bit about good counsel, so I'll let you add in on that. It is more important, of course, than I ever thought. Because of course you know other guys who play football, so you can talk about football with those guys. You don't talk about football with the guys who don't play football, right? And it's the same thing with girls. You know, you talk to those guys about that. When you become a father, those friends who never experienced that don't understand what the sleep deprivation feels like. Or they don't understand what it feels like when I'm saying like, man, I'm jealous of my kids. Like, what do you mean you're jealous of your kids? Well, I don't get to spend any time with my wife anymore because my 3-year-old, my 4-year-old, 7-year-old is always on top of her. So when I come home and I want to do a little something, she's touched out. My friend don't know what that's like. He has no clue. So you have these nuanced conversations that could be complex or just very different from people who may not be fathers. Having that group, no matter if it's a lot, a little, or get good counsel, it might be a father who has a 40-year-old or whatever, is extremely helpful.
Yeah.
I think.
I talked to Meyer before I had a kid, but also
Birds and the bees.
Not that far back.
Not yet. We will get there though.
in our room in college. But so my wife's water broke at 20 weeks, and we were doing everything right. I mean, going to church, paying tithes. We just left. We did a young adult Bible study on Wednesday. I'm like, all right, this job.
We set.
Paying all our dues. And then that night, my wife woke up crying, and she was like, "Water's leaking. You know, I don't know what's going on. But it's not good." So we get into the car. 285 has police blocking the highway. It has never happened before. All right, so then we try to go across the way with the railroad tracks. I've never seen a train come
Ever.
on this railroad track in my life. And this is like maybe 1 a.m. and the train is there. And so then I gotta do a street route. And so this is my introduction to fatherhood. Before we did that, I had kept our insurance card in my car. So we get into the hospital and like my wife, like water's coming out, and the doctor is like, "Well, we need your insurance." We're in the triage room, and I literally wanted to be like, "Yo, like get this thing taken care of. I'm looking for my insurance." Like I had it, but I was so irritated that she was asking for an insurance card and not like stabilizing the situation. And then the doctor came in, they tested fluid, they're like, "Yeah, this is amniotic fluid. Your child can't, like NICU won't even come see us because the child was too young to go through that process at 20 weeks. And then the doctor was like, Georgia also just shifted the laws. So if you're about to have a baby or whatever's gonna happen, the baby wasn't gonna live, and because her water broke, she was at risk to life because she could have an infection. So like all of our range of options weren't there. Thankfully, the water level stayed. We don't know how it resurfaced.
You said you've been praying.
But yeah,
It's them times.
It was God. But I didn't think, I thought I had, 20 weeks is like half the way there. I thought I had months to really get ready before I had to read. And so I got a whole crash course on all the parts of the body and what happens. And so the reason why I think community is important, a lot of the ladies right now, they feel like having at-home births are the way to go. And even Honey, my wife, mentioned it to her medical care professional, and I was scared to death because I was completely against it. She said, "I know everyone here is black women don't get treated well at hospitals," but she was mentioning that hospitals are way more safe than at home because anything that happens at home is that problem plus 20 minutes before you can solve it. And I tell a lot of people, and that's the only time I really give unsolicited advice is yo, I know y'all thinking about at-home birth. Please just go to the hospital. I promise you it's going to be safer. So that's why I think you need to talk to dads, even at the front end, because situations change fast. And, my family has lost a lot of people, and so you think everything is going to go well, and you got time before you need to figure it out. But it's everything in my life always tells me is yo, you gotta be on the front end of the problem and at least talk to folks that can give you good guidance before things go down a worse path. So that's why I think you should.
So your wife carried for 40 weeks.
Yeah, So that's my 23-month, 2-year-old daughter. So yeah, so that's our daughter, but I mean, they were literally telling us like, yeah. Your wife's probably gonna go into labor soon.
But this is the same birth. So
same birth,
40 weeks.
39, we went early, but yeah.
She just wanted to test you first, that's all.
Oh, you're doing the math. But that's helpful for fathers who've never been in that situation. Like, I had never heard of NICU before.
Yeah.
But it's like, even having, before you become a father, like my job, I feel like sometimes, is to talk to the guys that who are maybe thinking about fatherhood, but not there yet. So when they hear me say NICU, when they hear me say infant loss, miscarriage, when they hear me talk about home births, when they hear me talk about doula, it's not the first time they hear it. But sometimes it'll be the first time we hear it, and now we on the spot, and I'm like, how much more comfortable or confident will we feel in the situation if we at least heard it before so we can ask some questions?
Yeah, so when I have emergency situations when I work in the hospital, a lot of languages guys don't know. So something's happening terribly and you have to tell them and then explain it.
Yeah.
And it takes a little bit more time. So yes, I think it's really good that you're having these conversations before. I do want to be mindful of people's time because I didn't realize y'all really talk.
We want to talk.
Because it's 2 o'clock. I just want to end it because we're talking about community, how important community is. I know both of you do have platforms here for the dads and the cynical psychologist. There are 2 people that you can follow on Instagram. But I mean, this is a community right here, right? I know you have your brother, but you guys can Keith, you can talk to them. You know, this is a community right here that you guys can bridge and meet again. So I just want to be mindful of people's time because it's 2 o'clock.
Round of applause for everybody being here, though.
I do want to give my speakers cigars. I was told this is I don't know. I heard it was a Rocky Patel. I was told it was a good brand. I have no idea.
That is a good brand.
So there you go. I asked somebody else, and they told me what to get because I do really appreciate.
Doctors and Kurt's.
No, I don't. Edit that out. No, but I do appreciate you guys going on this journey with me. I definitely appreciate my brother-in-law because I told him about this in like January. He was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And I found you guys, and you were able to help deliver because this is actually my first like a major event. So I appreciate it.
I just want to say this. I gave a talk once to I forgot how old the school-age kids, but it was about drugs and your kids. And every parent that showed up were the parents that didn't need to show up, and all the parents of the bad kids weren't there because they don't want, they're in denial. It's like, this is the opposite. I don't think you guys are going to need a lot of help being a father because the fact you're here, you're going to point your head in the right direction, and that's it.
Yeah.
So thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Okay.